I guess it's going.
Well, welcome to Northern Light Spiritual Center.
Hopefully it's.
Northern Light Spiritual Center is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Light Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. We at Northern Light Spiritual Center acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded ancestral lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. Please join me for our opening song, In This Very Room, by Ron and Carol Harris. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room. So, meditation. So for this morning's meditation, I invite us to just settle into where it is that we're sitting or standing or whatever. And as we settle into our spaces, let's become aware of our breath. If you'd like, you can put your hand on your chest, on your stomach. To just notice the sensation as the breath comes in, a part of the body expands. And as the breath goes out, that part of the body contracts. So breath in. And then breath out. And this rise and fall of our breath, it happens continuously. Throughout the course of our lives, we have this rise and fall of our breath. Interruptions in this rise and fall can happen when we find ourselves facing fears. We may just stop our breath Nature has designed it so that we can become very quiet, very still in the midst of fear. But our minds allow us to go beyond where nature takes us. So with ourselves consciously aware of our rise and falling breath, let ourselves consider something that brings up fear. But maintain that breathing in and that breathing out. Because we are empowered to respond to fear rather than allow fear to drive us. So as we breathe out, we can release that fear. We can release the control that fear appears to have over us. We can allow ourselves to respond to fear with slowed breath. We can respond with our imagination, expanding the scope of our sense of fear. So rather than following the path of fear to our worst imagined outcome, we can very deliberately imagine the best possible experience in its place. We can allow ourselves to transform fear into its parallel emotional experience of excitement, anticipation, but rather than anticipation of the worst, we can open ourselves to anticipation of the best. Do we fear failure? We may allow ourselves to feel excitement at the prospect of success. And just attend to the physical shift of that imagining success. That imagining a desired outcome. Seeing ourselves in the world that can be. A world of delightful possibility. Rather than imagined disaster. Even when we find ourselves in the midst of not what we want, we can slow our breath, return our attention to our breath, and we can turn our attention to an alternate perspective. What would a beautiful sunrise or sunset look like? What would silent solidarity feel like? What would accolades and applause feel like? Consider encouragement. Consider those first steps ever taken, those first words ever spoken. And instead of frowns judging those, there is this open-hearted welcome for this breakthrough. So in the face of fear, in the face of failure, let us turn our attention to that open-hearted welcome, to that delighted, impressed, acknowledgement of this new experience and this new moment. Let our bodies just bask in that approval, in that praise, in that acknowledgement. Let us remember we are more than our fear. Let us remember that we are more than one finger pointing at us and criticizing. We are a multitude. A multitude of accomplishments. A multitude of successes. And in the face of any fear, just allow ourselves to return our attention to that acknowledgement, that praise, that success, that accomplishment. Find where it shows up in the body. Find that sense of accomplishment. And let it ring. Let the sound resound. Let it echo through the rest of our lives. A sweet, shining moment. Allow ourselves to bask in that light. Our breath still coming in and going out. And know that that basking, that light, is as close as our breath. All we need to do is to remind ourselves to breathe in slowly and to breathe out slowly. And this practice here and now becomes available anytime we need it. Allow ourselves to become aware again of where we're sitting, being lifted up. We're not flat out on our backs. We are lifted up, raised up from the ground. Our heads held high. Wiggle our fingers and toes, and as we are ready, come back to this room. Come back to your room in this space of excitement and appreciation. And so it is. Oh. So today's reading is the Centers for Spiritual Living statement on the Chauvin verdict, and I'm going to change it a little bit. To our communities in the United States of America, we extend our compassion, as many take in the meaning, relief, and complex emotions that follow on the Derek Chauvin trial verdict. As a result of worldwide protests following George Floyd's murder, this moment is significant beyond one nation, touching on the common hope from countries across the globe for accountability and meaningful steps towards healing. And we grieve with the Floyd family, understanding that a verdict never takes away the pain of their loss. Tuesday's verdict represents a small but significant step in healing the consciousness that has brought us to where we are. And it points to the work ahead, the work to dissolve bias, inequity, and injustice, so that our world may indeed work for all. We know that love is still the most powerful energy in the universe. As one of the many names of the divine, we invoke divine love to keep our thoughts, actions, and words rooted in our oneness, so that as a human race, we come to embrace a new reality where racial equity and social justice are the operating norms in society. We understand that when we stand for the dignity and safety of others, we ourselves come to a deeper understanding of our oneness and the shared sacred heritage. We have faith that the consciousness of oneness we are calling in is what transforms the unjust into the just, separation into unity, and empowers each of us to co-create safe and healthy communities for all. Blessings from Reverend Edward Fione, spiritual leader, Reverend Masando Hiroka, Chair, the Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee, Reverend Jacqueline Edwards, Reverend Martha Quintana, Reverend Cindy Grimes, Yodil McClenny from the Leadership Council. And so it is. So today is our final rendition of this month's chant. Walk with me on this journey, come with me to see, step with me on this road less traveled, go forth with me and be more than I can imagine, more than I can dream, more than what I can ever know, more than I can see and think and be. Walk with me on this journey, come with me to see, step with me on this road less traveled, go forth with me and be more than I can imagine, more than I can dream, more than what I can ever know, more than I can see and think and be. Second verse with you. Walk with you on this journey, come with you to see, step with you on this road less traveled, go forth with you and be more than you can imagine, more than you can dream, more than you can ever know, more than you can see and think and be. Now us, walk with us on this journey, come with us to see, step with us on this road less traveled, go forth with us and be more than we can imagine, more than we can dream, more than we can ever know, more than we can see and think and be. And back to me. Walk with me on this journey, come with me to see, step with me on this road less traveled, go forth with me and be more than I can imagine, more than I can dream, more than what I can ever know, more than I can see and think and be.
Come on back, peaceful. Whoa, easy now.
I'm gonna be free or die.
I've been walking with my face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when
mark your freedom?
Keratin.
Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through muddy waters. You know I gotta make up mine. And I don't mind if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on.
Harriet, welcome to the Underground Railroad.
And I know what's around the bend might be hard to face 'cause I'm alone. And I just might fail, but Lord knows I'll try. Shining stars fill the sky. Stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, do you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, I hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. I go to prepare a place for you. I go to prepare a place for you. I go to prepare a place for you. I go.
No. Oh. I'm just okay. Well, no, I didn't want her to do none of that. I didn't want to run out of juice. Okay. See? They're still here. We're still here. Okay.
Well, good morning. Reverend Vaughn was worried I shut the, I signed out of Zoom on the other computer, but I didn't want to run out of data for this month because we showed the movie and we had to use data for that, and so we can only have so much. We only have so much data for the month, and so he was getting a little nervous that would sign up for everything. But anyway. That was from the movie Harriet, about Harriet Tubman. And to me, that was one of the most powerful movies I had seen in a long time. It said over 11 years that Harriet returned repeatedly to eastern shores of Maryland, rescuing some 70 slaves in about 13 expeditions, including her brothers, her older brothers, sisters, wives, and some of their children. And she also provided specific instructions to 50 to 60 additional fugitives who escaped to the north because of her efforts. She was nicknamed Moses. And I can see why. And the topic for today is stepping out and stepping up. And the same thing as standing up for something or someone. And we have to do that in this life. I mean, I believe that is part of our journey here. Harriet stood up for what she believed in. I mean, she was beaten and she had brain damage, and eventually she had surgery for that, but without any anesthesia. That, to me, is maybe a little crazy, but maybe not. It was very brave. But she had suffered that brain damage at the hands of her owner. And so she decided, to do something about it. Decided to leave, decided to escape. And she did. And she could have, she went to Philadelphia, I believe. Mm-hmm. And she could have just stayed there on her own because she was free. However, she wanted to help others. She wanted to stand up and bring those other people that she could, all the people that she could, out of that country, out of the slave country, and into the north. And she was extremely successful. For one person to do what she did. In most areas of this journey of our life, we step out into the unknown, which is the theme for this month, is stepping into the unknown. I mean, how many times you stepped into something or decided to do something you knew nothing about? Or you might have known a little bit about, but you didn't know what the outcome is going to be. Because most times we don't know what the outcome is going to be. We hope for certain outcomes. We pray for certain outcomes. We think a certain thing will turn out this way. But a lot of times they don't. They turn out a little bit different. Sometimes they don't turn out successful at all. We need to be brave. This takes an amount of bravery and courage to step out into the unknown, to step into something where we've never been before. So, and what do we bring with us when we step into this new journey? Do we bring all the same old garbage, junk, stuff that hasn't worked before? Or do we step into it kind of like with childlike wonder? Or like a baby. You come in knowing basically nothing. And you're so eager to learn, so eager to see what's out there. If you watch a baby when they're crawling on the floor, they're discovering, oh my God, they're discovering such little wonders, which everything goes in their mouth, and which is not good, but however, but that's the baby. They're not afraid. They're not until, of course, something happens and instills that fear in them. Like I had my godson when he was just barely walking. I don't think he was really steady on his feet, but he fell and his hand went onto the wood stove, and he got burned quite severely. And you learn from things like that, You learn not to put your hand on the stove. And so many times in our lives, we have stepped into situations where when we look back at it, we probably wish we hadn't of stepped into that situation. But if we wouldn't have stepped into that situation, we wouldn't have learned something. We wouldn't have gotten some nugget of knowledge or good. Like Stephanie always likes to say about, there's a pony in there somewhere. And even in the worst situations, there is something to take away. And what are you willing to leave behind? Sometimes when we step into new situations or we step into something where we are called to be more, where we're called to stand up for someone or something. And sometimes we have to leave things behind, and sometimes that's people. Because sometimes there's people in our lives that, they don't agree with our beliefs or what we stand for. I don't know why they're in our lives then, really, if they don't. Because except to learn from. That's a thing too. But you don't have to agree. I don't have to agree with you all the time. But there has to be some sort of a connection to be part of each other's lives. And so if we leave all this stuff behind, because you're the only one that can do what you came here to do. You can only be that person that you were created to be. There's no one else in this world that can do that. No one else. And each of us are called to be brave at one time or another in our lives. Now, if we choose to be brave or not, that's another story, because, of course, we are at choice to stand up, to be brave, to have that courage and take a stand. Just plain take a stand. This morning, I'm unable to live stream from Facebook, which I'm a little angry about. I didn't realize that till this morning. I got a notice about something, but it's because something I posted on there was a picture that I posted, and I was taking a stand for something, and evidently that was against their, policies. And I've seen the same picture posted several times over, and I don't know if they're penalized, so I guess I'm in Facebook jail right now for. But I was taking a stand, speaking what I believe in, and yet was penalized for that. And how many times in life does that happen? Where we take a stand for something or someone, and sometimes you get even some of your relatives or your closest friends that will turn on you. That's, but that's the thing. When you take a stand for something, and something that you believe in. Marianne Ann Williamson said, each of us has a unique part to play in the healing of this world. And sometimes, to be part of that healing, we'll get burned. And the question is, if we do not stand for anything, like Ernest Holmes said, to be against nothing and for something, or against everything. I forgot which way, the quote exactly. But, and to be for something. Find something that we believe in. Because otherwise, are you living your life fully if there's nothing you believe in? Or if you just go along with the flow of everyone else? Are you speaking up? Are you standing up when you just go with the flow? I kind of think no, because you're letting others speak for you. And if we put off standing up, speaking out, then I believe we're part of the problem. The question is, the statement is the time is now. If not now, when? And if not me, who? Emma Curtis Hopkins is famous for I couldn't find the exact quote, but if you see a job to do, or a job needs to be done, it is yours to do. And so many times I have found that true, because if you see something that needs to be done, then you have some degree of passion for that. And for things to get done, there needs to be passion. I find out that one time I volunteered for something, and as it got closer and closer, I decided I was just not feeling, I wasn't feeling the call for it. I wasn't feeling the desire, the passion wasn't there. And so instead of, sucking it up and going through it, plugging ahead anyway, like I would normally do, I told the person that, I don't feel this calling to do this, and that I know someone else will step forward, the perfect person will. And they did. The person I spoke to was a little irritated with me, but that's on her. I had to stand up and it was not speaking to me. It wasn't making my heart sing. And if it's not doing that, then I'm not going to do a fantastic job. None of us are going to, like, if we get a job and this job is so boring or tedious or whatever it may be, and it's taking a toll on our lives in say physical, mental, emotional ways, then you're not going to do a good job, because it's draining you of your energy. And a lot of times, like I said earlier, I think that when we step up and step out, we're stepping out of our comfort zone. There's several things in my life that I've had to do that with. It's just, okay, this needs to be done, and I feel I need to do it. And so you step up, and you are stepping out of your little comfort zone. And to me, stepping out of your comfort zone is that's a huge time for growth. Time for growth and time for expanding who you are. We need to be brave and step into that person that you came here to be. I look back through all the decades of my life, and I've questioned it. Why am I here? What is my purpose? Why am I here? And it changes. Over time, I believe our purpose and our reason to be here changes. It expands, it grows. Sometimes it may get bigger, sometimes it may get smaller, depending on what is needed at the time and who we actually can be at that time. Because there's sometimes when we can be large and really out there. But then there's sometimes when we have to take care of ourselves, we have to step back a little bit. So we aren't quite as large and robust or whatever as we can be. But that's because there's that thing called self-care. We just celebrated, I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, Earth Day. And there's another place that we need to stand up. for this big blue marble that we live on. Of course, there is no such thing as, climate change or that, according to some, but if you just look around, you can't deny it. And who is what is the one thing that is here now that wasn't here way back when? And that's us. And the things that we have, the things that we've created. We've created things that we thought were good, but they may be good for one thing, but they're not good for the earth. They're not good for the atmosphere. They're not good, that's not good for us to breathe or eat. There's several things that we have put into foods and things that, eventually can kill us. And that is not a good thing for us to do. So we need to be aware of Mother Earth. And through all this, the big part of standing up and stepping out, we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And being vulnerable is very, I would say touchy, but it's hard to do sometimes. It's hard to allow ourselves to be vulnerable because we don't want to be hurt. Because so many times we've opened up, we've stepped into that vulnerability, and something's happened where we've been hurt either physically, mentally, or emotionally. And so that stops us, or at least holds us back a lot of times from opening up to that vulnerability. Because vulnerability is about shame and fear. And the shame is about the fear of disconnection, about not being connected, not being part of something. Because we all want to belong. We all want to be a part of something. We all want to be loved. We all want to feel worthy. And sometimes when we make ourselves vulnerable or allow ourselves to be vulnerable, some of those things don't happen, and we're risking that we're risking ourselves. But on the other chance, if you don't make yourselves vulnerable, you're also risking of not getting something better, getting something greater, by coming into a new community, a new situation where you belong. You feel that you have that feeling of belonging. You have that feeling of worthiness. So you can be vulnerable and risk that possibility of harm coming, or you can step out and risk something greater in your life. So when we step up and step out, we're allowing ourselves to that vulnerability. We allow ourselves to be open, opening our hearts, our minds. That's like when you experience a tragedy, usually a death. That's something that cracks it breaks our heart, literally, It cracks our hearts open. And when our hearts are cracked open, they expand, and it opens up to allow a greater good in. By being vulnerable, we're also having the courage to be imperfect, because we may fail, and so we think we're not, we're a failure, we're not perfect. But if you don't try, you're never going to know. You're never going to know if you can do that. And sometimes we do things, we try things, and that's it. Never again. I know I've had things in my life that, like certain foods, you try them and say, oh, that's enough of that. I'm not going down that road. But this imperfection is part of our perfection as humans, as expressions of the divine. And being vulnerable allows us to have connections as a result of being authentic. Being authentic, to me, is one of the greatest attributes of a person. Being authentic and being their authentic self is a beautiful thing, because there's so many people we try to be who we think we should be, or who others want us to be or think we should be. And in essence, we just need to be our authentic self, and that has to be good enough. That's why we need to let go of who we think who we think we should be. Sometimes we think we should be something greater, something bigger. Like I always thought, well, you want to do something in life, you want to leave your mark in this world, and you think it has to be such a grandiose thing, and it doesn't, because a lot of times it's those little things that you do in life that people remember, that people they say, well, this person, this is who they were, and it's these little things you do, a smile, a gesture. There are so many little things that can be done. These small acts of kindness. It doesn't have to be huge, but if you do something huge, great. There's nothing wrong with that. And when you're embracing vulnerability, believing what makes you vulnerable also makes you beautiful. I'll say that again. Believing what makes you vulnerable also makes you beautiful. Because when you're vulnerable, you are stepping out there and being your authentic self. And people will see that and recognize that. And that is one of the most beautiful things in the world. To see somebody, to connect with somebody that is authentic and standing in integrity. Vulnerability also is at the core of shame, fear, and a sense of worthlessness, worthiness. But it is also the birthplace of joy, creativity, belonging, and love. It's like that seed that gets planted. You step out into that open, in that vulnerability, and something takes place. There may be some, you're risking, but what may come about is far better. Like it says, it's the birthplace of joy, creativity, and love. Marianne Williamson also said, our deepest fear, this probably everybody recognizes, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And that's it. Sometimes we have this fear that if we step out and do something, that people won't like us. So many times in life, are our decisions made on what others think? I know I have been down that road far too many times. But that's not what our decisions should be made on. Our choices should not be made on what other people think. Because the fear of what other people think is chaining you down. It's not allowing you to be the beautiful, vulnerable person that we were placed on this earth to be. So it is our light sometimes that scares us, our power. And I remember first hearing about, power in practitioner class, because every time I would hear someone with power, I would think, power over somebody. Like your boss has power over you, or your parents had power over you. And I was always not quite in favor of that. But when I was ready to open up and realize that power is good, that we each have our own power, not over people and things, but we have our power to create, our power to do things in this world that is good. Michelle Obama said, "You can't make decisions based on fear and the possibility of what might happen." Like I said earlier, you step out into this unknown with this fear, and sometimes you won't step out because this might happen or that might happen. But like she says, based on fear and the possibility of what might happen. Because we don't know what's going to happen. And that what might happen probably could be one of the greatest things in your life. And then another quote from Ernest Holmes says, this is from The Thing Called You. That's one of my favorite books by him. One thing, it's a small book. It's nothing like the Science of Mind book. And it's so, to me, so relatable. And he said in there, the greatest gift life could have made to you is yourself. You are a spontaneous, self-choosing center in the great drama of being. The great joy of becoming, the certainty of external expansion. The greatest gift life could have made to you is yourself. Because we are a gift. We're a gift to this world. We're a gift to each other. We may not feel it sometimes. We may not even believe it sometimes. But unless we try it, unless we step out there, and we have gifts, each and every one of us. We have unique gifts. Some of us have similar gifts, but each of us are, that divine expression placed here to be who and what we can be. The greatest gift is yourself. And I just want to leave you with a couple questions here that you might ponder. One particular here is, what are you willing to change, shift, or let go to begin living life's purpose? What are you willing to leave behind to be able to stand up, to Stand for something that you believe in. Stand up, take your authentic self, and be that spark. And what have you learned so far on this life's journey? I know at 70 years old, I would like to think I have learned a lot. But sometimes I don't learn. I repeat the same things, mistakes over and over again. So evidently, those I haven't learned from them. And what are 3 action steps you can take this week to begin blazing a new trail of spiritual awareness? Awareness of who you are. Awareness of what your purpose is on this earth. As I said, I believe it changes. There may be a main purpose, but I believe it changes, it evolves, it grows. Because sometimes we can reach a certain goal or purpose, and what do we do then? We've achieved what we were after, and you say, what's next? I think that's an excellent question when we think we've done all we can do and have been all we could be. Just ask the divine, that still small voice within, is what is next? Show me more. And so in closing, I give thanks for stepping into this world, for being all that I can be, and for each individual in this world being all they can be. Stepping out, supporting each other, standing up for each other. And I give thanks for that divine expression in each of us, that divine spark, that perfect and imperfect spark. For as we move through life, we move through it together, not alone. And I am grateful for that, because it would be a pretty lonesome place if we had to go through this life, this journey all by ourselves. We have others to lift us up, these earth angels, to carry us sometimes when we have fallen and we can't get up. And so I give thanks for community, and for each and every life that I have come in contact with. For we're in each other's lives for a purpose, for a reason, whether it's a moment or a century. And so I release, I let go, and so it is. I want to stop that. Seeing we don't have Facebook people on, I did record, so I'm going to try to put that on Facebook.